All right, today we're diving into a pretty provocative geopolitical theory from Professor Jiang Xueqin of the Predictive History Channel. The basic idea: what looks like complete chaos in the Trump era might actually be a very calculated, very deliberate strategy to tear down the global order. And it all starts with what seems like a totally unwinnable war.
So, Professor Jiang's analysis kicks off right here with this major flashpoint: a potential war with Iran. The talk is incredibly aggressive, right? But the reality of actually fighting that war is, well, it's a lot more complicated. And according to this theory, that complexity, that's the whole point.
You know, from a conventional military perspective, sending ground troops into Iran looks like an absolute strategic disaster. And that raises the central question of Professor Jiang's entire analysis. If this war is unwinnable in the traditional sense, what could possibly be the real goal here? I mean, the military consensus cited in the analysis is pretty clear. Iran is basically a geographical fortress. You've got the Zagros Mountains, which are perfect for guerrilla warfare, and there are only about 50,000 U.S. troops in the whole region. A successful invasion seems like a fantasy. And yet, Professor Jiang points out that the U.S. is calling up military reserves for what's being openly described as a long, long war. It doesn't add up. So, even with all these massive challenges, Professor Jiang points to some pretty unconventional signs. For instance, there's something called the pizza index, basically a huge spike in late-night pizza orders to the Pentagon, which historically means they're gearing up for a major operation. On top of that, you've got these massive bets on prediction markets like Polymarket, with big money saying a ground invasion is right around the corner. So this all feels incredibly contradictory, right? I mean, one minute, Trump is picking fights with NATO allies over Greenland, and the next, he seems to expect them to jump in and help in the Middle East. From the outside, it just looks amateur, chaotic, like there's no plan at all. But what if that's the wrong way of looking at it? And this is where the predictive history analysis really flips the script. It suggests a completely radical way to see this. What if the chaos is the plan? What if losing the war, in the way we normally think about it, is actually the key to winning a much, much bigger game? This is the core of the game theory argument. What if the goal isn't to plant a flag in Tehran? What if the goal is to purposefully light a match and trigger a global crisis? A crisis big enough to shatter the world order we know and build a totally new one from the rubble. So according to Professor Jiang's theory, a long, messy war in Iran would immediately choke off that 20% of the world's oil that flows right through the Middle East. Now here's the key. Who really depends on that oil? It's not America. It's America's biggest economic rivals in Asia and Europe. In this game, the global economy's addiction to this oil is the very first domino they want to see fall. And the crisis, as the analysis lays it out, is so much bigger than just the price of gas. We're talking about the same shipping lanes carrying essential ingredients for fertilizer, which threatens the global food supply. They also carry stuff like helium and sulfur, which you absolutely need to make semiconductors for all our tech. This isn't just an energy crisis. It's a plan for a full system collapse of the global supply chain. So by engineering a crisis that basically takes the major Middle Eastern oil producers off the board, the theory argues that the entire geopolitical chessboard gets reset. All of a sudden, the world is desperate for resources, and there are only two major players left with the goods: a North American bloc firmly under U.S. control, and Russia. And right here, according to this theory, is the financial checkmate. For decades, the big fear has been that countries like China or Japan would just stop buying U.S. debt, and the dollar would collapse. But if they desperately need American energy and American food just to keep the lights on, well, they don't have a choice anymore, do they? They have to keep financing America's debt to get access to its resources. The whole Ponzi scheme, as the source puts it, gets to keep on running. Now, you might be thinking, where would an idea this complex and this high stakes even come from? Well, Professor Jiang argues that this isn't some new, original strategy at all. He claims Trump is actually just borrowing a playbook that's already being used, with great effect, by Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. This strategy is known as the Third Rome Plan. The thinking goes like this. The current globalist world order is decadent, it's weak, and it's doomed to collapse. So the smart move isn't to try and save it. It's to build your own self-sufficient nationalist fortress, one that's unified by war, by faith, and by a wartime economy, so you can ride out the storm and come out stronger on the other side. From this point of view, that long, brutal war in Ukraine isn't the problem. It's the tool being used to build that very fortress. So in this global chess game, if Russia is building its fortress, America's countermove is, well, to build a fortress of its own. It's a very similar strategy, just with a uniquely American spin. Professor Jiang calls it the Technate, or Greater North America. And from this perspective, all of Trump's seemingly bizarre moves, the feuds with Canada, the pressure on Mexico, the weird talk about buying Greenland, suddenly it all clicks into place. It starts to look like a methodical plan to consolidate the entire continent into one massive, resource-rich superstate, totally self-sufficient and insulated from the very global chaos it helped create.
So what you end up with are two competing fortresses, both being built for the same ultimate goal: survival in a post-globalist world. Russia's method is a long, grinding war to unify its people and rebuild its industry. America's method, according to the theory, is to engineer a short, sharp global resource crisis to get the same result, all while rallying the base around an ideology of Christian nationalism and make America great again.
When you add all this up, what you're seeing isn't just a simple change in policy. It's the birth of a whole new geopolitical paradigm. It's a direct and total rejection of the system that's been running the world for the last 30 years. And the difference is it's night and day. The old New World Order was built on global finance, with America acting as the world's banker. The Trump World Order, as Professor Jiang describes it, completely flips that script. The new economy is all about hard assets, resources, manufacturing. The culture shifts from secular multiculturalism to Christian nationalism. And foreign policy? It's no longer about being the world's policeman. It's about national rejuvenation. MAGA. In the end, this entire analysis from Professor Jiang Xueqin really forces you to question everything. It paints a picture where what we see as incompetence might just be a cover for a ruthless, long-term plan. And the question it leaves us with is a really chilling one. Is this a brilliant 4D chess move to navigate a collapsing world and ensure American power for a new age? Or is it a gamble so incredibly reckless that it could burn the entire planet down? The theory suggests all the pieces are already moving.